device itself consists of two parts. There is a part which is inserted into the thigh and has a ball on the top, and accurately matched to this is a cup with a very long threaded stem, so that you have a total articulation. These two parts move easily one upon the other. Now they're inserted as two separate units. This is an example of the pelvic bone here, and the cup section is screwed into position in the pelvis after preparing a track. The important feature of this track is that it lies along the weight-bearing line of the pelvis, so that we run this cup in a position in which its stem is subjected to little or no stress on weight-bearing, and we sink the cup into a specially prepared cone in the socket here of the thigh, so that it is deeply set in the bone and almost completely hidden from view. This then is the upper part of the joint. The lower part is produced by this component, which is inserted into the thigh in this way and lies in the top of the thigh after removing the upper end of the bone, which is normally, of course, grossly disorganized.
Well, we can see the long-range benefit of making more camping available for more girls in the future. A main lodge is always the main building, the focal point of any camp, and I think it will give the girls great pride and in their organization, and many things will happen at the main lodge. In addition to the eating facilities there will be this program center and museum library, which is attached, and I think that much Girl Scout program can take place here.
Well, there'll be two levels of benefit. First, to the operational law enforcement agencies, to the police, the courts, and to the corrections. The prosecutor, actually going through a trial. The judge, who must decide whether or not to grant bail to an individual who's been charged with a crime. The police officer out on the beat, who detains a suspect and wants to determine probable cause to make a formal arrest. If he has access in a matter of seconds to that individual's criminal history or lack of criminal history, this will give him a lot of information needed to determine whether or not there is probable cause to make arrest.
Jerry's brother had talked with someone in the DA's office. And they were talking on the phone, and they said, well, sir, you know you're fighting with the Big Daddy. In other words, that we're fighting more or less the police department and not Tom Hogan himself. He said that we would have to hire a private investigator out of a bigger city, and he named Houston as one. What I really want is to clear Jerry's name, because anyone that knew him knew that he wasn't the type of person that would prowl into anybody's business or even their home. And I just want his name cleared, whether it would hurt Tom Hogan or not. I want my husband's name cleared.
I'm hopeful that this represents a peak. I can't help but believe that the first quarter of next year, and certainly by the second quarter of next year, we should commence to see some upturns in the general level of the economy. And I think the recent elections indicated that the people have a deep concern about the well-being of the economy, and I rather look for our officials, wherever they may be, to address themselves to this problem.
Thank you. That impressed me most about the men and their work was their humanness. They went about it as men that really were human rather than being the hard people that sometimes we think them to be. The second was the proficiency or the efficiency with which they went about their work.
We wanted to give you a better understanding of the police role, the police officer as an individual, and some of the problems which he encounters, and to give you a better understanding in that respect so that you can better relate to your congregation. And hopefully down the road, this will bring about a better understanding from them about the police and their role, and support from them in ways which we must have.
You know, this just has to be one of the most beautiful days of the new fall season. the gorgeous blue sky. Mother Nature couldn't have done a better job than she did with this tree we're standing under. But this is not such a beautiful day for another 1,800 employees here at Texas Instruments, many of them from this building you see behind us. 2 buildings were affected in the latest of the layoffs, and this brings to 3,000 the number of jobless here at Texas Instruments since September 23rd, when 1,200 were told not to come back. The reason? Texas Instruments says it's a continuing softness in customer orders in the semiconductor division. Where this will lead, of course, the company does not know. They say it all depends on the economy. A company spokesman told me this morning that they thought September's layoffs would be it. And when pressed for the future, they said, well, today should be it. But again, it all depends on the economy. But when you walk down through the parking lots or drive through, you can see that there are still a great number of people employed here at Texas Instruments, although it is my speculation that 3,000 represents about 15% of the Dallas workforce. The overall worldwide employment of Texas Instruments stands at 48,000. However, that too is down 10,000 just over the last 9 months. TI, the county's largest employer, also affected once again by the softness of this economy. From Texas Instruments, this is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News on the Move.
It's the same old story. We've gone to college now. When are you ever going to let us grow up? There are laws that apply to the kids who didn't come to college. Why don't those same laws apply to us? The issue this time at SMU is alcohol, and the resolution as introduced tonight before the University Assembly points out that there are already state laws dealing with the use of alcohol. You can't buy or sell alcohol in the city of University Park anyway. Now, the real issue is it likely that you're going to be able to bring alcohol onto the campus at SMU for consumption if you are over 21? The state law says you can. There is a state law which says you cannot bring alcohol onto a state-supported campus, but it does not apply necessarily to private institutions like SMU. The resolution introduced tonight says specifically, each member of the SMU community is individually and personally responsible for compliance with the laws as written for the city of the University Park and the state of Texas. In order to provide maximum opportunity for effective self-regulation, which will protect the interests of all members of the community at SMU, each residence unit should adopt and maintain regulations regarding the use of alcohol and should make its members comply. Alcoholic beverages may not be used by members of the community on campus, except within the interior of campus residences, the Student Center, and the CPL, and all social functions in which alcoholic beverages are served, non-alcoholic beverages must also be served, and violations of these alcoholic beverage regulations, as of other university regulations, shall be subject to discipline through regular procedures. The resolution as introduced tonight probably will not be passed tonight. It will have to be referred to a committee. It goes on to say, however, that it is emphasized that when alcoholic beverages are used, you shouldn't get drunk, that you should not behave in a disorderly manner because of alcohol or for any other reason while you're representing the SMU community. Jerry Taff, Channel 8 News on the Move at SMU.
American Manufacturing Company is said not to be in compliance with the Texas Clean Air Act. And according to information gathered for the Texas Air Control Board for hearings this week in Fort Worth, American Manufacturing Company emits effluents up to 6 times more than allowed by the Texas Air Control Board, and on an average of more than 2.5 times considered as a safe level of pollution. That information was released in a hearing this morning at the Public Health Center in Fort Worth. The attorney representing American Manufacturing, Richard Simon, says the emissions of the company are infinitesimal in comparison with the automobiles and voiced the opinion that American manufacturing is just convenient to controls or a scapegoat to the real source of pollution problems. Mr. Simon said he intends to ask the Texas Air Control Board in Austin, December 10th, to grant American manufacturing a variance in effluents emitted into the air. Cecil Bradford of the Texas Department of Health Air Control Program recommended today that American manufacturing should be forced to meet air pollution regulations immediately. Bradford made the same recommendations yesterday for McKinley Iron and Steel, and Trinity Valley Iron and Steel Company must appear before the hearing next Friday for alleged air pollution violations. The final report to the Texas Air Control Board will be given by hearing examiner Evelyn Kubala, who is presiding over the Fort Worth hearings. Jim Green, Channel 8 News, on the Move, Fort Worth.